Now we were so excited because Dr. Ross Pelton, we got a hold of him, our producer did, and we want to welcome him to our program. He is a health expert and master educator, a pharmacist, clinical nutritionist, and health educator. He has authored numerous books. For decades, he has taught continuing education programs that help healthcare professionals utilize and integrate natural medicine into their practices. And I could go on, but we don't want to take up too much time. His accolades, because he's second to none. I mean, he just is. Welcome, Dr. Pelton.
Hey, good morning, Jane. It's always wonderful to be on Holistic Healthline.
Ross, we've been telling people for years that Dr. Ohhira's probiotics is the best probiotic on the market. The audience hears it from us every week, but can you explain why we say that?
You bet I can, and I'm excited to have the opportunity to do this. You know, for many decades, people have known that probiotic bacteria have important health benefits, but nobody really understood the mechanism of action, and now we're starting to unravel that mystery. And it turns out that bacteria themselves don't provide the health benefits. The job of probiotic bacteria is they have to ferment fibers in the colon and turn those fibers into secondary compounds we call postbiotic metabolites. And these are the compounds we are learning that are master health regulators for every single organ system in the body, including the brain and the immune system. So this is a whole new frontier in microbiome science, starting to learn that there's two pieces to the puzzle. It's the probiotic bacteria, but people have to consume a wide diversity of different types of fiber-rich foods, because fiber is the food for your probiotic bacteria, and then they convert the fibers into these health-regulating compounds, the postbiotic metabolites. And Dr. Ohhira's is so unique and so different because Dr. Ohhira was a visionary scientist that created a multi-year fermentation process to produce Dr. Ohhira's probiotics. So when you consume Dr. Ohhira's, you're not just consuming probiotic bacteria, you also get some of the prebiotic fibers, but most importantly, you get over 500 unique postbiotic metabolites that regulate your health. So that's really the Dr. Ohhira's advantage, or what we call the Dr. Ohhira's difference, because you're directly ingesting these postbiotic metabolites, which immediately start to improve the microbiome ecosystem with anti-inflammatory benefits and killing pathogens and reestablishing healthy gut-brain communication, a whole range of benefits, and that immediately starts to happen when you take Dr. Ohhira's probiotics.
Dr. Pelton, last year has been quite a year. A lot of people have, a lot of stress, battling illness, COVID-19, and, unfortunately, a lot of people passed away, but a lot of people actually survived having gotten COVID. And so how important is the microbiome in trying to get our bodies back on track for 2021?
Well, it's incredibly important because your microbiome is really the foundation of your immune system. And so we really like to encourage people to spend more time and more attention learning how to create and maintain a healthy microbiome so they have a strong, healthy immune system, especially during this time of our pandemic. And one thing we're really excited about at Essential Formulas is that for the second year in a row now, we're starting to advertise Dr. Ohhira's probiotics on HGTV, which is the largest entertainment cable TV network in America. And this is getting our message about Dr. Ohhira's probiotics and the importance of postbiotic metabolites into over 87 million households in the United States. So we're really excited about getting this message out to so many new people.
You're hitting the masses, as they say. So
that's
good,
right.
you guys, absolutely. And it's so important. Again, the not just the exposure, but the education. Why is Dr. Ohhira's the one you want to take.
Exactly. You're absolutely right.
Dr. Pelton, there's been so many studies now coming out, which we're really excited about, as far as the validity of and the importance of the microbiome and, again, these beneficial aspects of Dr. O'Hara's probiotic. Just recently, I was reading a study that just came out this week that found that changes in the gut microbiome can be connected to Alzheimer's-like behavior, which is really, fascinating. I think a lot of people don't think of digestive tract and brain function in the same way.
You're right, and there's just an enormous amount of research that's being published. And I just wrote an article titled "The Microbiome Connection to All These Viral Conditions That We're Dealing With." And the amount of research that's being published is just astounding. And actually, since October of 2020, there's over 3,800 clinical trials going on worldwide on COVID-19 alone. And there's an increasing relationship, and we're starting to understand that a lot of the risk factors for these viral conditions are directly connected to the gut microbiome. So people need to understand that it's really critical to have a healthy microbiome so that your immune system is not just strong for the common things like the winter flu and colds and so forth, but more importantly, these pandemic-type viruses that everybody's so worried about right now. And we now understand that these viruses can get in through the nasal cavity and through the mouth and down into the digestive tract. But if you have a healthy microbiome and a healthy GI tract, the acid in the stomach will kill the virus and protect you. But people take so many acid-suppressing drugs and antibiotics that upset things, that allows the virus to get in and start to multiply and get all throughout the body. And so creating and maintaining a healthy microbiome and a healthy GI ecosystem is critical for protection against current virus-type things that everybody's so worried about. But just everything in general is based on the immune system in the gut.
Dr. Pelton, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, just want to talk a little bit about, we're saying how great Dr. O'Hara's probiotic is, and it really is, but a lot of people say, well, I'm taking a probiotic that has 200 million billion probiotics in it, and so doesn't that make it better? So when we get back, I want to talk about that a little bit. We're going to take a quick break. You're listening to Holistic Healthline, your direct line to great health, and our special guest, Dr. Ross Pelton. We'll be back in a moment. And welcome back to Holistic Healthline, your direct line to great health. And again, our special expert guest today is Dr. Ross Pelton. He is a pharmacist, clinical nutritionist, and health educator. Dr. Pelton, years ago, when we were first introduced to Dr. O'Hara's and at a convention that there were a lot of companies out there that had their probiotics available to look at and stuff, and somebody grabbed us and said, you really got to look at this Dr. O'Hara's product because it's pretty amazing. And we're kind of going, oh yeah, sure, right. And then the explanation, again, how it works and how different it was. And it wasn't just about the billions and zillions. And Peter, I remember you on the analogy of throwing seeds onto a dry soil with no nutrients, no water, just kind of sitting there.
Yeah, that's what the people from Dr. O'Hara's were saying. Consider a truckload, a dump truck full of seeds, and you dump that truckload of seeds into a barren field. There's no, just sand. And, you'll be lucky if a seed grows. But if you just take a handful of seeds and put it into like a compost, a rich, nutrient-rich soil, now you're going to have, plants that are fruitful. And that's the difference between Dr. O'Hara's and the average probiotic. And it just made so much sense to me.
Dr. Pelton?
I can jump in here and kind of add a little bit to that, Peter, and that's a great way to explain the Dr. O'Hara's advantage. And one of the things I talk about a lot is that there are millions and millions of people taking probiotics and getting almost no benefit from them because they're not consuming the fibers, which are the food or the nutrients that the probiotics need in order to convert the fibers into these postbiotic metabolites that are really the things that regulate your health. And one of the studies that I presented in a lot of my seminars reported that 90% of American children and adults do not consume the recommended daily allowance of fiber. And in addition, when we're talking about fiber, it's not just the quantity of fiber. Also, it's important to emphasize the importance of a diversity of different types of fiber, because different types of fiber will support the growth of different types of bacteria, which will produce different types of postbiotic metabolites that regulate your health in different ways. So a lot of people say, well, I'll take fructooligosaccharides, or I'll take inulin. Well, that's just one type of fiber, and you're really not promoting balance and diversity. It's just like taking massive doses of one strain of probiotic bacteria. It might be a good strain, but you're not promoting balance and diversity, which is the most important thing for a healthy microbiome. And so that's what Dr. O'Hara's does. And you talked about some people bragging about the numbers in their probiotics. Mine's got 30 billion. Mine's got 50 billion. Mine's got 100 billion. And most people think more is better. And that's not the case with probiotics, because when you take high levels of just one or several strains, again, you're working against balance and diversity. And the bacteria don't have the diversity of fibers to be able to thrive and survive. So Dr. O'Hara created this multi-year fermentation process where they add lots of different types of fruits and vegetables and mushrooms and seaweeds, these high fiber-containing foods, and they put them in large 80-gallon fermentation vats along with 12 strains of starter bacteria, and then the bacteria get to break down the fibers in these foods for 3 years. And at the end of this fermentation process, the final product has got over 500 of these postbiotic metabolites. And to do a little analogy, if people are taking a commercial probiotic, those bacteria have to survive transit through the harsh acid in the stomach, and then when they arrive in the small intestine, they have to locate fibers and start the process of converting those fibers into the postbiotic metabolites. That all takes time. Dr. O'Hara's directly delivers the postbiotic metabolites, and they immediately start to provide health benefits in the microbiome. So there's nothing like Dr. O'Hara's. That's the Dr. O'Hara's advantage.
And when you're talking about postbiotic metabolites, for the listeners, we're talking about nutrition. You're talking about fuel for the body.
That's right. And some of the postbiotic metabolites, for example, butyric acid is called a short-chain fatty acid, and this is a class of the postbiotic metabolites. And butyric acid is the number one energy source to build and rebuild healthy new cells that line the gastrointestinal tract. So people that have inflammatory conditions and dysbiosis and so forth, those cells in the GI tract are highly inflamed, and butyric acid will accelerate the process of turning over the cells that line the GI tract and creating healthy new cells to help to heal the gut environment. So that's just one example of many of the postbiotic metabolites.
And there are so many people today who, because of all the medications they're taking, or the acid inhibitors, again, antibiotics, and chemotherapy, radiation, all these types of things. And now you got COVID that came along that has disrupted everything. But there's also the vaccinations that are going on that people are concerned about. Having balance in the digestive tract is going to help get us back on track. Absolutely.
That's a wonderful point to bring up. A healthy microbiome will make it likely for people to get their vaccine to have fewer or no side effects. A healthy microbiome helps you have a good response to a vaccine. And so that's a critical point to bring up. I'm really glad you mentioned that.
And is there a specific dosage that you recommend as far as for people to take on a daily basis?
Yeah, the recommended dosage for Dr. O'Hara's is 2 capsules daily. And that's pretty much the basic recommendation, unless somebody gets something like food poisoning, where you ingest bad food and tainted food into your stomach and you get nausea and vomiting immediately. Then I recommend that people take 10 capsules of Dr. O'Hara's and bite them and squeeze the contents out so that the contents get directly into the stomach to fight the food poisoning. But otherwise, if you don't bite the capsules, they'll go through the stomach and start to release the contents in the small intestine. But for a situation like food poisoning, you want to get it into the stomach so you can stop that nausea, vomiting reaction quickly. And a lot of people have had very good success with that.
Go ahead, Jane.
We've also had people who have bit the capsule open and squeezed it out, the material, and rub it into their gums that have chronic gum disease.
That's another good point. There are some dentists that recommend doing this. You squeeze the capsule and just swish the contents around in your mouth. And we don't have any clinical studies on this, but there's a lot of anecdotal reports where people tell us that things like gingivitis and periodontal disease really improve quickly. You're starting to support the microbiome in your oral cavity by getting Dr. O'Hara's probiotics and those postbiotic metabolites into the oral cavity. So swish it around in your mouth for about 20 or 30 seconds before you swallow it, and you really have a beneficial effect on the gums and the oral cavity.
We've also seen heartburn or indigestion. The same thing. You tell somebody that's experiencing heartburn, they're feeling it up in their throat. You hand them a capsule and say, chew that, and literally within seconds, they go, wow, it's gone. It's amazing.
Yeah, you're right. There's fast action with Dr. O'Hara's because you're directly getting those postbiotic metabolites in to reestablish the healthy microbiome ecosystem in the mouth and the stomach and the whole GI tract. It's really quite phenomenal.
Unfortunately, we're coming to the end here. I just want to quickly mention that the Dr. O'Hara's probiotics are available through Vitamin Shop, Whole Foods, Sprouts, and other natural health retailers across the United States. You can also go to essentialformulas.com. Obviously available at the Tree of Life Wellness Center. And if you didn't get that information, you can always give our office a call at 508-336-4242. We want to thank you so much, Dr. Pelton, for coming on. You're always so interesting. We learn so much.
Thanks, Jane. I'll make an offer for your listeners. I'll send you a link so all your listeners can get a free copy of my quick reference guide to drug-induced nutrient depletions.
Okay.
Please.
Well, thank you very much.
All right, you bet.